Builders, homeowners, contractors, listen up! When it comes to building smart and saving big, there's only one place to start. Builders Paradise. Everyday low prices. 20% off all day, every day. That's right. At Builders Paradise, you get everyday low prices. Not sometimes, not special days, but all day, every day. From doors and windows, paints and tiles, plumbing and electrical fixtures. Everything you need to build, upgrade, or renovate. So when you're building up and saving smart, start right from the very beginning. Builders Paradise. 20% off all day, every day. Where you're shopping, Builders Paradise. While you're saving, everyday low prices. Builders Paradise. Everyday low prices, 20% off all day, every day. Builders Paradise. Saving sweet all day, every day.
Everyday low prices.
Good evening and welcome to another episode of Talk That Get Results. I'm Reverend Webber Herbert, and as per usual, we are here every Tuesday evening with something that at least we think is of community interest and or of some concern. And if you think that you have something which fits into that category, you'd like to find out how you can be a part of the program, well, why don't you drop us a line, address it to a Let's Talk program in care of Vaughan Radio, PO Box 195 Charlestown in Nevis. So give us a call. Our numbers are 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. Here's a suggestion. By the way, those will be the numbers you'll use to be a part of this evening's discussion. You have a question or a comment, perhaps you can get a pencil, piece of paper, write it down so that you're well organized, and when you're getting on the show, you take as little time as possible so we can accommodate as many of you as we can. We ask only, first of all, you respect yourselves and then respect others, because we will not accept anything we deem that's not within our broadcast standards, but we encourage you to always be forceful with your point. You can also follow our live video stream of this program on our Facebook page at Vaughan Radio or YouTube channel Vaughan Radio. Click subscribe. Thank you all again for joining us. Your voice in the community, Talk That Get Results. Tonight, Conrad Naya Liebert, good evening.
Good evening, WEBBO, and good evening to my colleague here at Vaughan Radio, and to your hard-working staff here at the Powerhouse, WEBBO, and to the many people that always meet me in the street and have things to say, whether congratulating me or opposing my point of view. I welcome you once again. I only wish you can do what I always ask of you, that is to call in because it's an interactive program. And we wish to have a good conversation, a good debate. That's what it's all about. And so I would invite the public, general public, once again to be a part of this program tonight by calling in and view your opinion on the various matters that come before us. I will also like to hail up my friends in the international circle in Toronto and Connecticut and Florida. I invite you once again and welcome you to the program. And WEBBO, of course, as you know, I always like to be a part of this conversation, whether it's on air or otherwise. And I do hope that after these many conversations that I do have, we can remain friends and remain objective to the main fact that we all like the little island, we all love Nevis, and we want to see Nevis progress, Nevis going forward. And so I hope that never at all there's any bad feeling between me and those who support or even oppose my opinion. I enjoy every minute of the interaction, whether on air or otherwise. WEBBO, I want to express my profound thanks to you to invite me once again on this program. I look forward to a healthy discussion this evening, and I do hope that when we leave here we can we all can move closer to better solutions and to, of course, arriving at, some position, give or take, on matters that truly affecting the people. WEBBO.
Roger Fifield, good evening.
Good evening, WEBBO, and good evening to my colleague Naya. Good evening to all those who are listening near and far. We come to you with yet another edition of Let's Talk. WEBBO, for those who are celebrating birthdays, anniversaries, I want to say a special good evening to them. Hope that they are having a wonderful time. For those who are bereaved, we sympathize with you, we pray with you, and we wish that you would allow God to give you that level of comfort, that pillar of comfort for you. Those who are sick, those who are shut in, and those who are hospitalized, we pray that you would recover the soonest, and if you're in the hospital, that you would be back home with your friends and family. WEBBO, I just want to encourage persons who are listening and viewing to call in, as this is an interactive program. I've always said that you can learn something from us and we can learn something from you. WEBBO, I'd just like to say a special good evening to all those who are listening in the US. Mr. Truss, he listens every Tuesday night, and of course over there in Canada, Mrs. Liebert. WEBBO, I met a gentleman earlier today, and it was really nice. A much older person. He's actually in his 80s, I believe, and he gave me some words of encouragement. So he listens every Tuesday night, and little words of encouragement like those is what help me go by every Tuesday night. So I want to say a special good evening to Mr. Busso there in the Butler's area. Have a good evening, sir. WEBBO, I'm looking forward for a fruitful discussion as always, and thank you once again for inviting me.
Yeah, what we got?
WEBBO, just before we probably go into the heavy lifting, WEBBO, we just had the conclusion of our camp, the Jerry and Ursula Fifield Memorial Easter Camp that concluded yesterday, started on Thursday, and I just want to take this opportunity to thank all the parents, all the persons who attended the camp, all the contributors and sponsors. We say hearty thank you. Without your support, it would not have been the success that it was. WEBBO, this year we had some 81 campers camping with us this year, and it was really good. Of course, we had the traditional dishes. We didn't get to do the sugar cake because of the weather, but we did cassava bread, we did kanki, and all of the other traditional foods, dumpling and stuff like that. And we had a wonderful time. We hiked, we walked from the top of Brown Hill, just above Sandy, and we went down the back way, went to Cane Bay, then we head across to the lighthouse, and then we came back across to Long Point, where we were picked up from the WEBBO. And of course, Sunday we went to the Gingerland Methodist Church, where we worshipped there, and in the afternoon we had our big sports day. So I just want to say thanks once again to all who supported us, and we crave your continuous support.
I'm happy to hear it was a success, my colleague, because those kind of gestures, to me, is what's important. Sometimes we lack the everyday communication and time out with each other, because we are sometimes we're so much consumed by the modern technology, by the phone, and otherwise people doesn't really talk much these days. Really, you will see a group of 5, everyone is within their own little world on their phone, and I'm sure the phone wasn't really banned at your camp, but it would have been something not too bad if there was maybe some restriction, and then everybody would find reason to say, oh well, I want my phone. But I think those type of events where you go to a remote part of the island and you camp out, moving away from the luxury of your home and sometimes the convenience of fridge and other amenities and facilities, and live a little closer to nature. Nothing is wrong with that. I'm happy to know that it was a success, and you said it was about 80-something people this time. I know in the past it went up to over 100, but I think that's very much a lot of people, 80-something. I understand that you, as you just said, you hiked the southern part of the island, from Sandy all the way down to the sea and the lighthouse. I have not really traveled those areas in a very, very long time. In fact, I never ever actually walked from Brownhill to the lighthouse. I'm not even sure if I ever been close to the lighthouse, but I've been told there is a place. And the other day I was in the area of Brownhill, deep into Brownhill, and somebody was trying to point out to me where the lighthouse was, but I think sooner or later I'm going to pick myself up and take a long drive, and where the vehicle can go out, walk and see how far I can get, because remember, those areas may not be as accessible as it is today, soon or later, because of the development that is hoping to take place there. And it's been said that there wouldn't be much of you would have access, but of course one don't know the extent of that access. That is, we might have that situation soon or later, and so I will try to make it over before the development, if it does start, gets underway, really. And I would encourage all Nivisians to take a ride and a walk, a drive and a walk to the southern part of the island. So just you can get a more hands-on, a more physical layout of the area. And because of course it's been a subject of debate quite recently, some have said that the lands are very much not arable lands. Some have say that the land can be used for agriculture, because even within the desert, farming can go on. Some have looked at the lands in that area with great with an attitude that it only can be good lands if certain development take place. Some have been talking about the government putting in infrastructure. The government have been talking about the expensiveness of putting in infrastructure. So the lands in that area are very much at the forefront of people's mind today, and of course it's two things happening in the world today which seem to be very massive. That's the war in Iran and the intended destiny development in Nevis. I suppose from Nivisian and Kittitian point of view, even though this issue of the development on the southern side have gained some international attention from the New York Times and I think London Times, and also Del Monte, that's a press in France, and other commentators have written about it. So knowing that we are about to undertake something which is basically the first in the world, and an experiment, I suppose, something that has been just in theory and imaginative in a sense. It looks like it would be tried here on our little island in the southern part, maybe sooner or later. There's great opposition towards it, and I suppose it's ongoing. We are waiting communications, I suppose, from the federal government on the matter. And of course a lot of people are holding their breath about it, because I think it can not only change the landscape of Nevis, it can transform Nevis in a positive or even a negative way. It can actually bolster some individuals' political life. It can probably destroy some individuals' political life, and so it is a highly charged and talk about issue all over the world, really, and one wonders why Nevis. Anyway, the matter of the proposal became front and center quite recently. The proposal that was sent on December 23rd and received in January 28 or 27 by the federal administration. That proposal was begged to be ventilated by various non-government groups, because they have been expressing that the proposal is of such, it's of national interest, because the contents can be such that can transform the island or the federation. It is a proposal that the public should have an insight into. It falls of the Freedom of Information Ordinance that was passed in the local assembly, and it has been circulated that the public should have access to that proposal before it's debated in the local assembly. I think some response came from the Premier that ventilation, that access, that promulgation of the proposal will be done when it's debated in the local assembly. But somehow I think the federal government seems to have taken a different approach to it, and I think last week Thursday, community groups and civil society and some other interested individual was invited to a meeting. Somehow we here in Nevis received the information on Wednesday for a 10 o'clock meeting on Thursday, and I was made to understand that there was a few people who turned up to the meeting. What was actually fundamental in this meeting, or this attempted meeting, was that the participants was asked to sign a vow of secrecy, meaning that information should not be taken away what is being discussed. That to me really seems to be not acceptable by the general public and by the individuals who went on behalf of their organization. That vow of secrecy should not have been a part of the request. It should not have been the request to the participants in this discussion, because of course when the civil societies send their representation, or community groups send their representative to such meeting, they expect that the representative would come back and discuss it with the organization. But I suppose if they were asked to sign that I say vow of secrecy, then it was expected that they should not return and discuss anything, not only with the organization, but with the general public. And I think in the first place, the whole invitation was to really, for the public really, to have some access or some knowledge of the contents of the proposal. And so I'm talking about it because it's quite an awkward thing to ask of representative of social and community organizations. And I wanted to know what my colleague thinks about that.
Well, first I must say that, it's the participants' right whether they want to be a part of that particular forum under those conditions. No one can, vex with them or be angry with them if they do not want to sign, or if they sign. You know, it's we are living in a democracy, so persons, you know, have the choice, the freedom of choice to either do or don't do, and I suspect that is what happened. Apparently some did and some didn't. And as you rightfully say, if I go to represent an organization, you know, I think the organization would want possibly feedback from me. Now, if I go to represent myself, then it's a total different kettle of fish. Then I don't have to give feedback to anyone because I didn't go on behalf of anyone, basically. So it would be up to me if I want to keep that information, and if I sign to keep that information, I ought to keep that information. So that is what I would say to that. You know, it's people have the right, or the right of freedom. I don't know if you would have heard about the character games that just passed, that was held in Grenada, the Karani James Stadium, where we are so happy and proud of, well, all of our participants, first and foremost, because to me, for you to meet the requisite criteria to go to Carifta, be part of any Carifta team, I think that in itself is a achievement worthy of note. And from Nevis, I think that there were around 8 or 10 athletes, you know, from Nevis, and of course we had the head coach, the assistant coach, and members of the management team, you know, traveled to Grenada. Sorry. And I think it would have been was it Sunday or yesterday, that young Newton, Kamani Newton, he placed third. He walked away with a bronze medal. He placed third in the 800 meters for under 17 males, and I think that is really, really a good achievement. It might have been he was the only person who medaled for St. Kitts Nevis, and we must say kudos to him, kudos to his parents, his coaches, and all who had a hand, you know. And we really, you made us proud. I must make mention of young Kelly, Najim Kelly. I think he placed fourth in the 1500 meters. I think that he's one to look to next year. I can see the determination in the way he ran. You know, he never said die. He feels as if that he could come back. I think with young Newton, I think that he struck a little too late. I believe if he had struck a little earlier, he might have very well placed first. You know, some persons may be shocked in me saying this, but we all know young Newton, he's basically an all-rounder in terms of an athlete. You know, the distance races, the 800, I think is the longest distance I've ever seen him run. And of course, he's very good at the 1, the 2, and the 4 also. So he have some speed power coming down the home stretch, and he did really, really well. He was actually in 5th position, and you know, he actually came 3rd. I want to say kudos to young Hendrickson, also Jaden. He didn't place, but as I said, to be in the car of the team, you know, you must be of a certain standard, of a certain level. And of course, young Burton, Shandon Burton, I think he might have placed 8, was it, in the 1500? I'm not sure what position he placed in the 3000. Might have been 8th and 6th, but I'm subjected to correction, and I think that he did really well too. And all of the other athletes, young Prentice, I think in one of our heats, both of our heats, I think the 1 and the 2, she would have placed 3rd. And the first 2, of course, you know, went on to the finals, and then the next 2 best times. But I think they did well. I think young Philip, I think she did shot put. I'm not so familiar with the athletes from St. Kitts, so you must forgive me, you know. But I think all in all, they did really well. As I said again and again, to represent the federation is an achievement worthy of note.
I'm not aware, and I can't comment much on the runners and so forth. But there was a federal team,
Yes.
Yes. And how many athletes? athletes left the federation?
I'm not sure of the final count, but I think there was about 8 to 10 from Nevis.
Okay. Okay, and those athletes are chosen from the high school meet?
Yes, the various meets, and they would have had what they dubbed Carifta trials, special meets that athletes would take part to see if they can make the Carifta team. First and foremost, you have to run a certain time. If you cannot reach that particular time, it doesn't make any sense. You will not be able to be qualified for Carifta. I'm not sure of the time, and in terms of the throw, the shot put and stuff, you must be able to throw, and you must be able to jump.
How many countries participate in the Carifta Games?
If I could probably try to call out some. You know, we had Antigua, we had Bahamas, we had the BVI, we had St. Kitts Nevis, we had Jamaica, Barbados, Guyana, Trinidad. That's what, 8? I'm sure it's more than 8, I must believe. Of course, Grenada, St. Vincent. I'm not sure if I heard any from Dominica. But basically, all of the Leeward Islands, all of CARICOM, basically.
Okay.
I would say CARIFESTA. So it was really a meet that was up to national or international standard. I think one of the commentators yesterday was speaking highly of the middle distance and the long distance that the Caribbean, really showcase in a real way at that meet. And what came out, what become of those athletes after CARIFESTA? So much potential, and they just probably fall along the wayside. It's almost, in a different sense, what happens at the primary school level, and then coming into high school, a lot of our athletes fall off. But what came out of that discussion is that, youngsters, they probably get job opportunities, they probably go off to colleges, and stuff like that. And what also came out is that, probably the facilities here in the Caribbean, in terms of training, may not be as enticing or conducive to those maybe in America and so forth. So those are some contributing factors. And when we come maybe back home locally, we would see in primary school that we see a number of athletes, and we've been hearing things about these particular athletes probably from even kindergarten to grade 6. And then in high school, you don't hear these names anymore. You wonder what happened. But they are around, but not running, or not running as good as they once used to. Now, the question is, why? Do we put in as much into our teenagers as we put in to those that are going to the primary school? What can we do to encourage our athletes to continue instead of just jumping off? That is a question that we need to ask, and we probably need to address.
Well, I suppose, but you can't move away from the fact that it's almost like the fittest of the fittest will survive, as it relates to potential. Of course, you can identify a good athlete, someone with some talent, but he or she must committed to and believe in himself or herself that she can or him can go somewhere, in the field of athletic. That's where coach and other individuals, I suppose, will jump on board. And even before that, you can actually talk to an individual if you see some kind of potential, But remember, we're living in a global society today, and to be an athlete, a runner, it's about time sometimes. time, the ticking of the clock, the seconds and the minutes at time. And, and I also agree with you with, infrastructure, motivation, and along the way, contribution too, you can take up an individual and you might say, look, okay, you are going into high school but you have a good chance to be a good athlete, he or she may concentrate on that and giving less time to his or her academic work, and he may leave the high school doing well in athletics, being pressured to go and find a job because maybe parents need him to get some money and to maybe help the family, but yet the coach probably is thinking otherwise. Stay, training, don't bother with the 9 to 5 at this point, and so there is that back and forth and that kind of tug of war going on between reality and imagination. I suppose these are the things that we probably need to look at and sort out. It goes beyond just talk, to be quite honest with you, because when we're dealing with reality, needs, commitments, bills to pay, and general self-confidence too. It really creates a lot of variables, I suppose, going forward in a young man or young woman life. But I think the federation have potential, like any island does. Of course, you would find more potential in a country of 1 million people than you would find in a country of 50,000. But when we look at the Olympics, we see the St. Lucia girl. She's on top of the world. With 100 meters. And St. Lucia have 190,000 people. And she's beating everybody. And so we see that coming out of Jamaica a lot too. So you can't really predict the clock. So you really have to identify talent and try to develop the minds of the individual and raise him or her confidence that they can go somewhere against the so many diversions he may have in his mind or he may be expected to act upon, from society, from parents, and so forth. And so the area of sports is a highly disciplined area of life and occupation, put it that way. You cannot really live as free as, say, someone who's probably not dealing with that, who probably wants to be a builder, who's probably even wants to be a teacher or a lawyer. You got to mind what you eat and your sleeping habits and what you drink and how much time you hang out with your brethren or your girlfriend and how much energy you put into this and that. And the life of an athlete and a sportsman can be filled with discipline, personal discipline, and of course there's also that expectation on a national level. First, on school little level, and then there's the home, then there's a national level, and so you tend to have to really be walking that straight line. How many of us will decide to do that? All of this need, I suppose, a level of encouragement that you can reinforce the mind. It all come from a belief that you can do it and you can live such life to make it happen. It's one of the more difficult occupation, I would think, being an athlete. A sports person, to be quite honest.
That is true, and I think that sometimes the conditioning of the mind too. And when I say the conditioning of the mind, the educating of the prospective athlete, because sometimes I want to believe that the athletes just probably look on and then they see the glory of maybe a bolt, so to speak, but they do not understand the months of training just to run 9 seconds. You know, it's months upon months of hard training, hard work. And you are so correct in terms of diet. What do I eat? You know, what do I drink? I have to be careful of what I consume, because, you know, if a random test pops up, you know, and something is in my bloodstream, then I could be banned. As a matter of fact, I could be banned even if I won a gold medal previously. You know, so we have to be so careful and minded in terms of what we do, you know, what we do not do. You know, even the company we keep, you rightfully said again, the hours, you know, our resting period, it's not easy, you know. But if I can just segue from that, you know, to come back to where I started in terms of the number of athletes that represented the federation previously, well, just on the weekend there, the number of athletes from Nevis. From my recollection, this is the most athletes that been to the Carifta from the island of Nevis, representing St. Kitts Nevis. And I know some may argue, but for and against, but I want to believe that this could probably be attributed to the track that we have now. And not only the track, before the track we used to run on dirt. There's a big difference. There's a big difference. In my day of going to school, we used to jump in a sand pit. In a sand pit. I have never jumped on a bed. And now we have, just like the regional international meets, when you're doing your high jump, you're jumping on a bed. That simply means that your style of jumping. I can recall when I used to go to school, they used to have something named Western roll, jumping in high jump, and the scissors jump. You cannot do that type of jump on a bed. So you have to know, you know, reprogram yourself, so to speak. Well, first and foremost, if you never did jumping before, they would teach you how to jump. They would, you know, show you the way. But I was just using that to say how far we have come. And I'm saying this too because if I can recall correctly, we had someone representing us in Grenada doing the high jump, I think. So, you know, we have come a long way. You know, the Mondo Chuck, I want to say kudos to, you know, the government for the foresight, you know, that they have, and to put in such a wonderful chuck that the children, you know, enjoy, and not just the children, but we as a people enjoy. But what I want to say to this now, to this end, you know, maybe it is time for another phase to be added to the Mondo Chuck. The Mondo Chuck, it has been good to us. As I said, you know, the athletes have the representatives from Nevis has been increased, as we saw over the past weekend. And so maybe if we can now find a way to build that other state phase, you know, to erect stands, you know, there are bathrooms, but what I would call proper bathrooms and stuff like that, maybe a media stands, a media pavilion, whatever it's called, to host these media meets like these regional meets. You would attract a lot of different media houses, and maybe if we can do that, maybe we can now probably start to look into not just, you know, our local athletics games, but maybe regional, maybe even, you know, Carifta. You never know. It may not happen in the next year, in the next 5 years even, but, you know, maybe in the next 10 years and beyond, you know, we can probably maybe bill out, you know, in stages. I know money is tight, especially now this quote-unquote war is going on, and as a result, you know, the oil prices has escalated, and that being as it is, it will have a negative effect on us meaning the cost of living would go up, the cost of every single thing would go up. So I understand that these are times when we have to, as the old people would say, tighten our belts. And, you know, we have to prioritize. Now, so, a sportsman may say, well, by prioritizing, we need this. Another person may say, by prioritize, we need this. We need roads. We need other infrastructure. So, you know, it is up for the government, you know, to along with the voices of the masses, to say, well, what is the priority here, and the first on the priority list, and probably we work towards it. As I say, even in stages, if we are speaking about the development of the Mondo Track.
Well, it should be completed. It was started. It has proven to be something good for athletics and for football. I suppose it's another facility that was needed, and it should be completed. I hope we don't get too comfortable with it at that stage. Really, I guess we will get the fullness of it when it's completed, when you have the stands and so forth, and maybe the high school championship may come back to Nevis. It's only been in Nevis once since how many years? 80 years, 60 years of it happening. Well, it's no joke about that, you know, because it's a very serious thing. Because I understand last year there was no inter-school championship because the Kittitians refused to come up again because they was up here the year before. And so I can't understand what kind of balance is that, what kind of federation is that, because for 60-something years, if it's 60 years of championship, 59 years we've been going down, you come up once and you don't want to come again. And so I hope they can iron out that type of imbalances, you know. I wondering if the completion of the Munduchak would kind of bring more balance into that, because really and truly, we Nivisians have become too relaxed about certain imbalances and yield and feed into it, instead of really stand up and say, look, man, if 59 years be coming down there after 60 years, so what if you come 2 years up here, you know? And you know what? We may be coming back down there unless we put some more balance into this and make it happen, because if we representing the federation, Sinkers athletes, Nevis athletes, why that imbalance? Why the business of it all should always find themselves in Sinkers? Because it's a big business, you know, it's a big event, you know, and so forth. So really, there's a really deep and touching thing in that respect, you know. So let's try and get the Mundo track finished in some form or the other, and let's see if we can bring a little more balance into this inter-school championship, so that out of 60 years, you know, we can have it in Nevis twice and not once. I mean, it sounds so bad, you know. I mean, we can try and sugarcoat it and everything else as we do sometimes, but sometimes enough is enough, you know.
Notwithstanding what I said moments ago in terms of you know, building out the Mondo Track, the point is we would have had the meet, or the meet was held here 2 years ago, if memory serves me right, and it was a successful meet, and it was held here, you know, with the same infrastructure that is in place up to today, meaning that it wasn't, or the fault or the reason why it wasn't held in Nevis last year, it could not have been, in my opinion, because of the lack of infrastructure. Now, what I believe is happening here is attitude, mental attitude, the way we think. Do we really believe that we are equal in the federation? Do we believe that a man in Keon is equal to the man in Zion, so to speak? Or do we believe that the man in St. Paul St. Kitts is more advanced, so to speak, than the man in St. Paul's Nevis? Now, we would have been going to St. Kitts for a number of years, and we have shown that we are not just going there to make up numbers. We recognize earlier this year that the Charleston Secondary School placed second, and everyone, they were holding their breath up to the, I think, 2 or 3 races before the event ended, because it was that close, it was that tight. So we have the talent. We are not just going to make up numbers. Now, as you alluded to also, you know, there's a business component to it, the commerce. What happens when we go to St. Kitts? We as Nevisians, we are paying for lodging, we have to eat, we have to be transported. Probably the transportation is quote unquote free in terms of land transportation. But then when we flip it the other way, what happens? You know, some of that business now comes to Nevis. The schools in St. Kitts would have to stay on Nevis. So our guest houses, our hotels would make some extra money, so to speak. Our vendors, our small business people. So it is not, to me, we have to look at it, you know, beyond sports. Because as I said, the same facility was successful in holding that said meet in 2024. So we have to look and probably even find a way, how can we rotate it? You know, St. Kitts is bigger, yes. One may argue that it's just maybe 2 schools from Nevis coming across, while there are maybe 6, 7 schools from St. Kitts that have to join across. We understand that. So I am not here to say that, you know, every other year. But why not every 2 years or every 3 years? So 1, 2, 3 in St. Kitts, 1 in Nevis. 1, 2, 3 in St. Kitts, 1 in Nevis. At least.
What about 1, 2, 3 in Nevis and 1 in St. Kitts? 1, 2, 3 in Nevis and 1 in St. Kitts. Because of 60 years you've been going down there. You understand? What about that?
Well, that can work too. That can work too. It's all depends on the criteria that you build, so to speak, the criteria that you put forth.
You see, gone are the days where you have to really stay in Nevis or we have to stay in St. Kitts, you know. We jump on a boat in a half an hour, 25 minutes, you go home. You know, in other towns or city, you jump on the train. You know, 25 minutes, you're gone home. You understand? But the truth is, 5 minutes across from the Wally Beach pier over there, you know, to across the channel, 5 minutes and you're home. You understand? And you see so that those lodging questions and so forth, sometimes they're not really that heavy in making these decisions.
And that's another way of looking at it. And this is what I'm saying. If you know, if this thing is discussed widely, there are so many things that can come into play. Because that is something that definitely can come into play when, you know, these teams in the bigger countries, you know, go from state to state. You know, I understand that. And yes, we are just 5 minutes away, 6 minutes away. And you cannot be too tired, so to speak. You know, 6 minutes journey across the waters and then maybe another 20 minutes, 20, 30 minutes to your various homes. So this is something, you know, that we could look at. When I said 3 there and 1 here, I was looking at it in this way, that they are overnighting in Nevis. And if they overnight in Nevis, hey, I would be happy. And the vendors would be happy, the small business persons would be happy, because their guest house, their hotels, their restaurants, you know, they would get business. The bus men would get business. People would journey over, the boatmen, you know, all the boat operators from Charlestown and from Wally, they would do some extra business as well. So I'm looking at it at that angle, you know. But, you know, if you want to look at it your way, to say, well, look, After 60 years, we've just had it once. So maybe it's time for us to play catch up. So instead of, we have all of that looked at. But hey, for us to catch up, 3 in Nevis and 1 in St. Kitts, I mean, that's another angle that could be argued too. I don't have any qualms with that.
Well, there shouldn't really be no big argument about this. It's just that gone are the days when such things have been taking place, and to me, it's kind of, you know, on a new. People have grown and developed now, to be quite honest. I think we have been playing that role within the federation, that mainly political role, that we should be recognized, you know, as we are a sister island to St. Kitts, and St. Kitts is a sister island to us. A lot of people argue that the government will always sit in St. Kitts. Not necessarily, it can sit in Nevis too, but I think the same mindset we have to just sit with our mouth shut and let 60 years of it happening in St. Kitts and 1 in Nevis is the same mindset we have when we in a position to say, okay, we're going to be the Prime Minister and the seat of government going to be in Charlestown.
That of course is possible, and sometimes I ask myself, you know, I mean, when we look at it, the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party, we know that years gone by that the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party field candidates in Nevis, and so did PAM. A lot of persons seem not to remember that, I recall that, but PAM would have fielded candidates in Nevis once or twice, at least in the past. So, you know, if that is to happen, nothing is wrong with, let's say, the concerned citizens movement fielding candidates and St. Kitts. You know, nothing is wrong with that, I believe. Well, I don't see anything wrong with that.
Good evening. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Good evening. I'm listening, and I'm wondering if we're not overextending ourselves a bit. When I say that, I mean, I know we like to say that, you know, size doesn't matter, but there are limits to what we can do. There are limits in terms of how likely it is that we produce somebody exceptional in sports, or anything for that matter. And the thing is to identify when there's an exceptional person. I imagine in sports, yes, a lot, quite a lot of it is DNA related, shall we say. You know, you have to be born with a particular talent. Part of it is training and training facilities and trainers. Part of it is actually motivation. You might be good, you might be very fast here among your peers, but until you get into an area, a situation, a place where you have people just as talented and are more talented as you, there isn't the impetus to go beyond you being first at home. And so I think if it's identified that you have the talent, then I think you should be shipped off somewhere that has the better facilities, better trainers, better athletes to provide that extra motivation, extra push, those kinds of things. But yes, you can't ignore the fact that sports is important to practically all persons in school and beyond, in education. You have to wonder how much better it might have been if the resources were really put to more selected use, okay, so that we produce I mean, I haven't had anybody come along since Kim Collins, let's say, that kind of ability and so on. You know, again, that's probably a result of the size, of our size, you know. But, hello?
Your question?
Hello?
Can I ask you a question,
Yeah,
or can
sure.
I make a comment?
Yeah.
Do you know that Mr. Corvin Wallace was the one who paved the way for Mr. Kim Collins back in 1996 Atlanta Games? He was the first athlete, Olympian from St. Kitts Nevis to be at an Olympics back in 1996 Atlanta Games. Corvin Wallace out of Nevis.
Okay. Did he receive his training over there?
If memory serves me right, I think that he received some training in the United States.
Okay. All right. Well, that kind of proves my point. Okay. Maybe it's exposure that some of our athletes don't have. And like I said, it's very important that we identify those who can benefit from the exposure.
Mhm.
Right? I think that is really where we should concentrate our efforts on. Sure, have the rudimentary facilities and so on here, but we'll never have the kinds of facilities that are available elsewhere. And it's important, if we're going to have world athletes, we're going to have to expose them to world facilities, world training, better, more competition among the peers, that sort of thing, right? Yeah, I know it's nice to go to a school meet and see children compete and do well, but they're doing well in a local setting. You know, when they go elsewhere, you know, they don't do as well because they don't have the exposure and may have the talent and ability, right, and the coordination and so on that the reflexes that are necessary in sport, but those things can be developed or honed to the point where you get the kind of Olympian results that other countries can produce. Well, so I guess you know, you can't not look after or look to making sure that all children are exposed to some kind of sport, right? Because I guess that's how you identify the talent in the first place.
Carla, can I engage you once again? Sorry to cut you off. Can I engage you?
Sure.
Carla, I agree with you in terms of, you know, the exposure for our athletes to compete amongst their peers, you know, at least at a regional level. I am subjected to correction here, but I believe once upon a time we had something we dubbed as the Culturama Games, and it was more of athletic games, and I believe, and I say I'm subject to correction here, that those games we had participation from countries around the Leeward Islands and also the British Virgin Islands.
Right.
And I think if something like that, if something like that were to be reintroduced, I believe that the level of competition, you know, in each island participating could only get better. When we look at Antigua, and we see, I want to believe that she's about 16 years because I've been following her for quite a while. Tyra Fenton, last Carrie Festa, sorry, she would have won gold in the 400 meters. This year she won a bronze in the 400 meters and she won gold in the 100 meters. First time running the 100 meters at Carrie Festa, and she won gold in the 200 meters. And that's a youngster who would have been doing really well. There was an older female in Antigua when Tyra was about 13 years old, and that, I can't recall the name to be honest, but that female would have participated in Carrie Festa in the past, and at age 13 Fenton was really giving a real good run for her money, and you saw that. So I am saying we have persons right, 30 minutes away in Antigua, who have, that experience of, feeling what it's like to stand on the podium and receiving a gold medal. To be coming and running against our youngsters here. I believe that in itself could be some level of motivation that I'll be running against a Tyra Fenton, etc.
Yes, I agree. And that there's no reason why you can't have invitational stuff. It doesn't have to be a huge meet. I mean, ideally, I guess it would be nice if the inter-island is extended to sub-regional or something, but you don't have to have let's say the best in each island competing against each other in an invitational. I mean, you're talking OECS people having countries have 9. There are 9, or roughly 9.
Okay, caller, you want to finish up the point? Because I think...
there's nothing wrong in having them just bring 9 to show and compete. And the good. That provides the motivation, I think. All right, then.
Okay.
Yes, WEBBO, in recent times, we would have heard about the 100, I want to dub it, if I can, the 100 man to Africa, to Nigeria. And persons, I suppose, were asking, how the 100, were selected. Of course, they were selected by the Prime Minister. But if there was a particular criteria, from reports, I think that there was less than 5 persons from Nevis who journeyed to that, on that flight, if I can put it that way. And I understand that it is for exposure, persons, opening up, giving persons, exposure to a different part of the world. So you can probably have, trade and, and other, probably vacation and stuff like that. And I don't know how we feel about it. There's another talk about, you could probably have, the Federation opening up to, parts of Africa directly to have trade business setups and stuff like that. I don't know how we feel about that.
Well, there's a lot of sentiments surrounding that type of stuff. Like, we're Africans and we came here during slavery and we're trying to make that link back to Africa and so forth. It sounds good and so forth, but in reality, how commercially viable, how successful such links would be in terms of trade and so forth. What do we have to exchange? What can't we get easier than to really get it out of Africa? What are we talking about? Consumer goods, services? Of course, there are big banks in Africa who are willing to and have money enough to help us out in terms of loans and so forth. But in reality, when one think of services, and there could be such, but in terms of consumer items and so forth, I don't think it's really a big deal. Really, I understand that it's important that we make that link emotionally or otherwise, and we can also choose, the land of Africa as a possible destination for us when we want to go somewhere else, since America don't want us to come anymore, and Canada is too cold, and England is what it is, and Europe is also what it is. We can have a new frontier open up to us across Africa. I think emotionally and such, it is something worthwhile, because we've been moved so far away from Africa, not in a physical sense, but in an emotional sense, and in terms of knowledge of what exactly is going on in Africa, because you find yourself in Africa and you want to know if he's in the US, in one of those highly developed cities, or in France, or anywhere else, because Africa is not what it is as we were taught, really. It's way beyond, it's progress way beyond we can think, it's development way beyond we can think, and it's also primitivity way beyond what we can think. Is also underdeveloped way beyond what we can think. So the diverse state of the continent is something which would, of course, intrigue us, and any role which we can play or they can play in terms of developing each other's knowledge and each other's willingness to form relationship, it will be a good thing. But distance is always something, and to be in the forefront. We see China basically take over the whole place as it relates to consumable goods. There's no doubt. I'm not sure which African country we can get things here in the Caribbean more readily and more at a good price than what we probably can get out of China. But it's just to be explored. I mean, these things are left to really be checked out, because I know we can get a lot of things out of Cuba at a good price and quality goods as well, but we never tend to give it a try, because our big sister America is going to be upset with us, and so we just need to be more steadfast in what is good for our people, and make that link. I mean, that 100-man journey, I've heard briefly about it, but I never really looked into it seriously. But that's a lot of people, really, from the Federation. And you say 5 from Nevis. You're back to the same thing again. This inequality that exists throughout every aspect of this relationship with our sister island in St. Kitts is not good enough. As one caller said last week, they don't even have a government. Nevis have an island administration. St. Kitts have none. The federal government is the government of St. Kitts and Nevis. That's a fault of the Constitution. And
why do I get the feeling an election is close? Every time an election is close, we need constitutional reform. When I interviewed Dr. Douglas, when he became the Prime Minister for us, he campaigned heavily on that, constitutional reform. And it's on tape, because we keep records. And I said to Dr. Douglas, as Prime Minister, why do I get the feeling that next time around we'll be still saying the same thing? And that's about 1995, right?
Years ago.
So every time I hear this talk come up, it reminds me of an election probably somewhere close. So when I heard you all just now, I just checked my brain and, an election is close.
Yeah, election is close, boringly so. It's coming up next year.
So the rhetoric comes out.
Well, no, I think the conversation have led us down that path, because we are once again dealing with the perceived inequality, and in reality.
But you will always be dealing with it, because all it is just talk.
It is
and that's what the evidence has shown. Right? Because the people who are talking don't do nothing other than talk. That don't get any result.
Yes.
That's what the evidence shows.
That's what the evidence shows. You're right. And I suppose the people who can do something, they're talking too. Well, they're the one who
are those people?
Who run the wholesale talk shop.
Who are those people? Because those people who you point on will tell you, not me. So who are those people?
WEBBO, it
appears you know who they are? So who are they?
Well, it appears as though to me that persons who are in government, they like it, and when they are in opposition, they don't like it.
Such as who?
Opposition would not like it.
The opposition is not a name of a person. You say persons who in government, so let's talk. You see what I'm saying?
No, Taka, go on. Webber, we have forgotten too much, too fast, too quick. And we are consumed by, seems like, other things. Maybe it's money they are consumed by. People who feel like getting into politics is not to change the status quo or to ensure that things work in a proper way, but to, you know, fill themselves with power and money as well. You know, I got to be frank with that, because I am here talking about inequality. But Nevis has been in a position too many times that we could address this. I suppose we're still in a position that we can address this. And in a serious way, the various aspects. We talk about the sports. So, you know, I mean, 60 times, 59 times to sink is 1 to Nevis. We're talking about 100 people going to Nigeria, 5 from Nevis. And, you know, we talk about almost everything. And, you know, I'm for one, don't believe in a federal team going no way, to be quite honest, because Nevis always get the squeeze. Just how we play cricket, think it's against Nevis, we should play all the other sports, and Nevis represent athletes, and sportsmen of Nevis represent Nevis, athletes and sportsmen of Sinkits represent Sinkits, because it's a stifling thing when this inequality becomes so compounded and now almost like a permanent imprint on the minds of not just the grown-up, but the young people, the youths, them too, you know what I mean? And of course, I blame the politicians them all the time, and they have lost their focus and continue to lose their focus going forward, as it relates to what Nevisions is asking for, which is more equality and so forth. But I realize too that there is something going on. I realize that there is something going on because I started out this program talking about the meeting that they had as it relates to the proposal sent over to the federal government, and the federal government found it necessary that they ventilate the proposal from the Destiny, but the local government, the NIA, did not find it necessary that they do that. They said that they would, of course, debate the matter, and that's when we, the people of Davis, will get to hear about it.
Good evening, thank you for holding.
Good evening, Mr. Herbert. How are you, sir?
I'm well, and you?
Good. Good evening to your panel. Naya, I want to relate this question to you. How many test players we had from Nevis? 7, 6, 7?
Yes, or 8 or 9.
I won that, right?
Yeah.
Because you just make a point, say that you think Nevis should go on its own just so we play cricket. You think if a combined cricket team will have 7 test players?
No.
I don't, exactly, that's my point. That's all I want to hear.
No, well, yes, it's a good question, and it's a good analysis of it all. You know, yes. We've been suppressed anytime we come on a federal level, and I think it doesn't give us that time to grow.
Yeah. Anyhow, we had a federation cricket team. We'd have never produced 6 test players or 7 test players already. We'd have never, maybe 1, maybe 2. Maybe none. They do everything in the power to dismiss us. But anyway, one day we'll rise. Have a great evening, gentlemen.
Good evening. It's the nature of it, Naya, I do understand, but when it comes beyond the OECS, you know, they look at us as one country, meaning that it would be one team. Once it comes to the OECS, you know, we would have had the OECS netball, we would have cricket and stuff like that. But they would look at us as one country outside of the OECS. Hence the reason.
Yeah, I know.
But in terms of the cricket, I think somebody can bear me out in this, because I believe before there was a Nevis cricket team and a Sinkits cricket team, there was once a Sinkits Nevis cricket team. And then eventually, here in the Federation,
when?
Back in the maybe 1920s, 1930s.
Where you get that from?
Well, somebody's going to call in and put us straight, I'm sure.
That there was a Sinkies Navy team in 1920s and 1930s.
A cricket team.
Cricket team.
And Carnevis wasn't always on their own. I am almost certain that somebody would be able to put us straight with that one.
Well, I don't believe, put it that way.
Okay.
Okay? I don't believe. You believe. Do you believe?
Yes.
Okay. But I was making a point prior to you come back in and talking about the OACS thing, you know, because to me, sometimes something is going on which I don't understand and a lot of people doesn't understand. What I don't understand is why the local government, as it relates to the proposal sent to Sinkies, refused to give Nivisions that right to hear what's a part of the proposal. And when it reached to Sinkies, the Sinkies government find it necessary to give us the right to know what's in the proposal.
So do you know what's in the proposal?
No, but that's what the meeting was about. The invite groups, civil society, the coalition of societies, and a few people attend. The meeting didn't come off, you know. One, because the invitation received on Wednesday for a meeting on Thursday. Okay? Two, the request for them to sign an oath was not well accepted by some of the representatives. And three, they said insufficient people showed up at the meeting. And so they rescheduled the meeting. Okay? And the Attorney General decided to take that objection to the request of the oath of secrecy back to Cabinet to discuss whether or not that oath should be bypassed in the next setting. Why do you think that?
Well, first and foremost, Naya,
why do you think the local government was so secretive about letting Nivisions know? But even the federal government, the fact that you send out the invitation on Wednesday and receive on Thursday, they themselves they did not plan to maybe invite Nivisions and the various groups in Nevis, because such a short notice is unacceptable also. But there were many who made it to the meetings, a few who made it to the meetings. And this oath of secrecy. What is going on? It looks like we know more about what is going on in Iraq or in Iran than what is going on here in our federation. What is exactly going on?
Naya,
Can you help me here?
What I would say, first and foremost.
No, that's a very serious thing to me, you know. Sorry to cut you off again. You know, because I want to know what's the game about. Well, I mean, and what kind of game it is. You know, transparency, nullification, or a pass on of that responsibility, or a responsibility that's passed on but given very conditionally, asking for an oath of secrecy. What is going on?
Well, let me just back up, Naya. Right? I believe everything is a due process. Now,
is that the due process, or you mean like a process?
Due.
Due.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Now, let's put it in this way. Look at it this way. We are cooking a pot of soup. You want to cook soup, fish water. Let me use fish water, so my tell. And you have a good idea what the ingredients are. So you would put in the ingredients. When the pot reached at a certain stage, you would taste it to see if you should put in more of this or some of that. You wouldn't put in all at once, because if you put in all at once, the can I call it texture, the contents that is in the pot, they would not boil to that point to bring out the taste. Now, let us bring it to what we are speaking about here. If the NIA were to just remember, people were saying that the NIA, they are not showing them, quote unquote, the agreement. But as I said, if the NIA and Destiny, you know, was trying to come up with an agreement, and the NIA is saying that I want X, and Destiny is saying they want Y, then you recognize that there's basically no agreement until the two of them would at least at that stage come to an agreement.
Yes.
Or come to common ground. Let me don't use the word agreement. Come to common ground.
Yeah.
And when they have come to a common ground, then I believe that they can now say, well, the pot has reached a certain way, put it out there. Now, further to that, as I say, we have to follow the process. It had to be sent over to syndicates, so the federal government now could look at it. Remember, the federal government is the government of St. Kitts and Nevis, who deals with, amongst other things, customs, immigration, national security, amongst other things. So now, in my opinion, the federal government would want to look at it and say, well, or to see if there's something that impede or treads on the federal law, so to speak. And once those are, in my opinion, are thrashed out and sent back over to Nevis, then basically, in my opinion, the NIA, the federal government, and of course, Destiny would have reached to a common ground. When they reach to a common ground now, then is when I believe now that the wider society now should come into being, because you have a set.
No, go ahead.
You have a set of draft ideas, rules, regulations, whatever you want to call it, draft set. And then now, the wider society now, in my opinion, could come and say, well, hey, tweak this, take out this, add this. Because if you have that up front, it could very well be chaos.
So, in other words, you sign the deal, and then you say, look at it.
No.
Okay, what you saying?
No. I'm not saying you signed the deal.
What are you saying?
I'm saying you have the draft that is agreed upon in principle by the Destiny, the NIA, the federal government. And once that is agreed upon in principle, then you put it out to the general public before it goes to Parliament, in my humble opinion.
Right. So what I'm asking then is, what helped you to form that view?
This particular view that I'm putting forth?
Yeah.
By basically the reference that I base it on.
Which is what?
The pot. The
what?
cooking.
The cooking?
Yes. You have to get to a certain stage.
Me to laugh.
Yeah, but you have to reach a certain stage, Mr. Herbert.
So work with me then. Since we're cooking. So once you done cook, the food already cooked, you go with that?
Yes.
Okay.
But I'm saying, before it cook, you would have an opportunity to taste the pot and to see if you need more ingredients. If too much of a particular ingredient is in the pot, so you could combat it with another ingredient.
Right, and that is
before it's cooked.
Right, that's your view. How you think they should do things.
Yes.
Okay.
So basically you're saying after the pot is cooked now?
No, I didn't say the pot is cooked. I've never said that. before the pot is cooked, you would taste the
You will
pot.
be tasting the pot.
Because when
adding ingredients, so forth, so fifth, yes? That's what you're saying. After the pot is cooked, okay. So can we assimilate an agreement between the NIA? We're not saying an agreement. I mean, common ground between the NIA and Destiny, and common ground between them both and the federal. After that, it's time to bring it back in the public domain. Am I getting you right there?
we have to understand the pot would not be cooked until it passed through both parliaments. After they pass through both parliaments, then it's when the pot is cooked and everything now would be going apace.
At what point the people would get to influence what goes in the pot?
This is what I'm saying. In my opinion, after, of course, Destiny and the NIA would have to come to some common ground before the proposed agreement goes to the federal government. So it's with the federal government now. The federal government would look.
So in other words, based on your proposal, that process is outside the realm of your proposal.
No, because
walk with me. You said that the people will get to input based on Naya's question before it goes to the federal government, not true?
No, before it goes through parliament, both parliaments, before it goes through both parliaments.
So what it doing in Sinkers now then?
Well, this is what I'm saying, Mr. Herbert. It goes to the federal government, so the federal government can look at it and to see if anything at a federal level, it infringes on anything at a federal level. So they could say, look, this is this impedes something.
So in other words, you don't come to the people first?
It would come to the people.
Afterwards?
Yes.
After the
federal government look at it, send it back. So in principle, Destiny, the NIA, the federal government, the people in coming yet after that.
Okay, so in other words now, as the process stands now, based on your proposal, we shouldn't even be talking about it yet, we the people.
No, I'm not saying that.
No, well, you said based on your proposal, it go to the NIA and Destiny, they talk. Then it go to the federal government, they talk. And then it come to us afterwards, not correct?
Let me...
Am I correct or not?
You're correct in saying that, WEBBO.
Okay, hold on. Good evening, thank you for holding.
Hi, good night. I called in about a question a while back and I didn't get the chance to hear your thoughts, so I'll ask it again. The Sovereign Wealth Fund, they said that they will have the final say over what the money will be spent on. So they are putting themselves into an arm of the government. Do you think that is threatening our sovereignty? Thanks. I'll listen offline.
Okay. So, yes, Fifield. Who, by the way, anyone want to take that question now or later?
We can take it later.
Okay, so you want to hear what Fifield has to say, right?
WEBBO, we have to remember, first and foremost, the NIA, the people had some input.
No, walk with me. You are proposing the five-field strategy process. That's what we're dealing with. Okay? And you said, according to the five-field process, correct me if I'm wrong, the NIA and Destiny must talk, correct? And then when they finish, they must send it to the federal government, correct? Okay. And then when the federal government is finished, then the people can talk, correct? According to the five-field doctrine. Am I correct? Okay, what part is not correct?
Because what I'm saying.
No, what part of what I said is not correct?
Because the people would have had some input already.
No, you're disconnecting me. Where you is to Edric? The five-field doctrine. You agreeing with it, you know? You said the five-field doctrine, that's what I term it as. Destiny and the NIA must talk, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then they send it to the federal government and the federal must make its input, correct?
Yes.
And having done that, then they go to the people, correct? That's the five-field doctrine.
Yes.
Good.
But if you could give me an opportunity to explain.
To explain what? The five-field doctrine?
To explain it further.
Well, we don't have a lot of time, you know.
It won't be long, Mr. Herbert.
Am I correct?
Yes, but I would like to...
Okay, go ahead and
elaborate.
Explain. Elaborate.
Right. What I'm saying, Herbert, we know that 2 multiplied by 4 gives you 8. We also know that 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 give you 8. Right? So, what I'm saying here, right?
Well, hello. 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. That's 4.
I counted 8 in the but
didn't you say 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus give you 8?
Plus 1 plus 1 plus 1.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Herbert. So what I'm saying, of course, that it is that's the broad aspect of it. But what I'm saying here, the people of Nevis had an opportunity given to them by the NIA to give input.
I think you're not with me. You're working against me. We're not talking about what happened already, you know.
Okay.
You are proposing something.
Okay, fine.
Is that not correct?
Okay, fine. I just didn't want, the listeners to be disconnected.
So why disconnect them then if you don't want them to be disconnected?
No, I was hoping that...
You're hoping that I didn't notice.
No.
I got you. We together. Okay, what else? Yeah, I think you thought it's time for a light moment. So. Well, let me get a break. This is Thought That Get Results. Roger Fifield, Conrad Naya Library. Your phone calls on 1-869-469-1616 and 1700. We'll be back after these.
Ready to save while you build? Now you can at Builders Paradise. Yes, shoppers, build up your Value Club points at Builders Paradise. That's right, Value Club members and shoppers, your favorite frequent buyer club is now available at the home of hardware and more. Whether you're laying tiles, painting walls, replacing doors, upgrading windows, or fixing up your home, every purchase at Builders Paradise now earns you Value Club points. Enjoy exclusive benefits like discounts on thousands of items, special savings for seniors, instant deals, quarterly rebates, plus an extra up to 2% off every quarter. Shop more, save more, earn more, only at Builders Paradise. Don't miss out. Start building your rewards today with Value Club at Builders Paradise, because every bolt, board, and brush brings you closer to bigger, better savings. Terms and conditions apply.
Back on this episode of Thought That Get Results. Naya.
Well, the caller asked a question. I hope I can make sense of it, really, because I think the caller said that there will be some kind of sovereign fund, but the people who put the money into the sovereign fund will decide what the money will be spent on. And I think the caller was asking if that's not reflecting sovereignty in some form or the other. I mean, that's what I gather from what the caller asked, you know. But what I say towards that is that there is that struggle which the government, the local and federal government, are dealing with. That struggle of the investors really wanting a high degree of sovereignty, if there is such a term, or having that kind of autonomy within themselves that one will describe as, to a certain extent, a degree of sovereignty. If they're going to have such sovereign fund and they decide where the money is going to be spent, the caller want to know if that's not kind of usurping the role of a government, if that's not a reflection of some sovereignty. I would say yes. And I hope I got the question right, and really, responding to what he or she was asking about, because as I said, the main struggle we've been having here, and the main unsettled thing with a number of people, the hoteliers, the bar association, the civil societies, is that eagerness and that thrust to gain a level of independence, sovereignty, that kind of state within a state that the Destiny Group represent, and so whoever wrote the legislation, penned the legislation, I suppose. It's being argued that this was sent from somewhere else and introduced into the Attorney General office. It seems that way because we constantly have to be struggling and of course erasing those tendencies that seems to point towards a level of sovereignty that these investors are on about, really. So that's what I wanted to say as it relates to what the caller mentioned. I'm for one realize that, and in the information that's out there, and the development of this new ideology that wants to be experiment here on Nevis. It's all about really having one sovereign state in Nevis, in relationship to others elsewhere, but Nevis is the testing ground, basically.
What I would ask, I put it in a question. But before I do, let me just give a little backdrop and tell you how I feel and something that transpired in Nevis some years ago. Now, I do not believe that any Prime Minister in St. Kitts is going to sit by and allow any entity to come in any part of the country of St. Kitts and Nevis and have a quote-unquote a sovereign state. Now, when we look at what transpired back in 2011, just after the local elections on Nevis, and the Prime Minister then journeyed to Nevis, and how Nevisians reacted, and persons in some quarters said that Nevisians, quote unquote, run the Prime Minister out of Nevis. Now, I am saying this to say, the Prime Minister sometime after that was in a news interview with a media house, and none of that came out. What came out was like, unity, St. Kitts and Nevis is one and stuff like that. I do not believe that any Prime Minister would want even what is in our constitution in terms of secession to happen under their watch, because one, it's going to make them feel as if that they cannot unite people, they can't keep their own house in order, meaning the Federation of St. Christopher and Nevis. And I now fast forward now, I do not see that anything to do with sovereignty or anything that is going to infringe on the constitution of St. Kitts Nevis, that the government in Bastia is going to sit back and allow it to happen. And hence the reason why the agreement went over to St. Kitts.
So that's another five-field doctrine?
Well, it's
You read the essay? Yeah, answer. Go ahead, answer.
No, I was just saying that it is just a name that you put to it.
Right.
If I could just say this.
No, so work with me. It's just a name I put to it. So the answer is yes?
Yes.
Okay, so that's another five-field doctrine. You know about the SSZ Act?
Yes.
You know where it was passed?
In Bastia.
You know the content of it?
I do not know it to heart.
Oh, you don't have to know it to heart, but you know a little about it?
Yes.
You know that it covers, in terms of permission, the Destiny Project?
If we covered the Destiny Project?
Yeah, but in terms of permission. Some people say that it was written for it and it was, and vice versa. You heard that?
I would have heard that.
Okay.
I would
No
have heard
further
that.
question. Go ahead, Naya.
Well, we would have heard that, yes, and I would not. I think there is a great, a massive relationship between the act and the knowledge of Destiny coming here, because, as I said before, the ink didn't even dry on the legislation when there was a proposal coming through Nevis about Destiny. And so I asked the question before if it's the intended investors prompt the act or the act prompt the intended investors. To me, you just can't separate the two. And that's why, you know, the Prime Minister was quite willing to go back to Parliament to strengthen the act and to make amendments to it, because of the concerns of the various groups, the Bar Association in particular, and the concerns of the people in various groups. It needs to be tightened up, and I suppose things need to be adjusted. But one of the things I've been hearing, and I read in the local newspaper, people must buy the newspaper, you know, it's a good thing, was that the Attorney General was saying the Destiny proposal would be judged upon the act as it was passed in Parliament and not to any recent amendment. And that really raised my eyebrows, because I'm wondering, and I think I overheard the Premier trying to give an explanation for that as well, that even though the Act will be going back to Parliament for maybe amendments and tightening up, as some would say, the Destiny proposal submitted and arrive at the federal government desk on the 28th of January would not be judged on the amendments or the tightening up of the act that's supposed to take place. And that's quite questionable, you know, in a sense that nothing has been signed. And I do understand that the proposal was made in accordance to the act as it was passed in the House, and any further amendment, then the proposal might fall foul of those amendments, may not fit into those amendments properly. But somehow the Attorney General and the Premier say it's going to be judged on what is previous to the amendments. So that is a highly debatable thing from my point of view, because the law is the law, and I suppose you know, things that you might have gotten away with when certain things was not in place, as things fall in place now, I think you should still adhere to what is the newfound law. It's left to be seen. I don't really think that that's the way it should be, to be quite honest. I really think that any amendment, the proposal, even if you have to go back to the joint table, must go back and comply with the amend legislation. If I feel, I don't know what you feel about that. If you
Let me just take this. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Yes, just an observation. You realize under the five-field doctrine that once the NIA and the federal government sign off on the project on Destiny, that there's nothing to stop them from going into both parliaments and passing this, correct? You can, so where does really the people coming in after that, after they've both signed off on it? Because you can't even challenge it legally until it is passed. Isn't that so?
Carla,
Yes.
can I interrupt? I never said sign off. They would come to an agreement in principle, a common ground in principle.
Correct.
And after that is done, they take it to the people before any signing to see if there would be any more other amendments or any other input from the masses.
To be fair though, Fifield,
Yes.
you don't think the caller and the public would need time to study the five-field doctrine to understand it fully?
Possibly.
Okay.
But quite apart from that, they don't have to take what the public input at that point. They can go straight to Parliament with it.
So in other words, the caller, you are exposing a weakness in the five-field doctrine.
Well, like I said, it was an observation.
Oh, an observation. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Because remember, I do recall that at least one town hall meeting when the eyes essentially had it, when it was obvious that there were objections, right? And yet the eyes still had it. So there's nothing really at that point to them to decide that, well, whatever objections came after, we've basically on principle decided to accept this. We're not going to accept those either, and just go and pass it.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Just an observation. If I feel you're becoming a superstar, you know, because that doctrine is catching on.
So what role that meeting that they had, they intended to, that, what was the intention of that coming together of the civil societies and community groups like last week?
I would tell you this.
Anybody could
I'll tell you
help
this.
me there?
I'll tell you this. If a person tells you who they are, believe them. A person shows you who they are, believe them for sure. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Hi, good evening, WEBBO. I'd like to attempt a small correction. I could be wrong, but I think I may be right with something that Naya just said. Go ahead. Could I go ahead?
Yes, go ahead.
He did indicate that the Attorney General did make the point that the act, that the agreement will be judged under the old act. I listened to the Attorney General myself, and I think he's not quite right with that. My view of what I heard was that the Premier had put forward the view some weeks earlier that the new recommendations or additions to the act would not matter because the agreement would be judged on the old act. The Attorney General, in his statement, clearly disagreed with that view.
Okay.
That's
All right. Thank you. Naya?
Oh, thank you, caller. I'm at ends to what the caller is saying. Really, I think it came out in the newspaper this weekend. It is front page on the newspaper. I have not a copy with me, but I think that was the big caption on page 1 of the newspaper.
Which of the newspapers?
One newspaper, Observer. It says that the Attorney General, said that the proposal will be judged based on. But I don't want to get into a back and forth about this. The caller is saying that the Attorney General disagree with what Mr. Brantley is saying. I am saying if the Attorney General agrees with what Mr. Brantley is saying, I don't think both of them are correct, personally. Well, it can be, but I think it also can be challenged successfully, because the law is the law, and if something was not in place before, as it's put in place, I suppose you got to yield to what's there. That is my view on it, which is left to be debated. Anyway. But you have just made a point, WEBBO, and you said that if a person tell you they are so forth, so fifth, something that you say more than once. I am trying to apply that to my question, what the meeting was about when all the groups and community groups and civil society was invited on Thursday at a 10 o'clock meeting. Which part of the pot did the pot already cook, or it was in the process of cooking, and their input would have represent ingredients, or what? But as I said, the local government did not give them that right, and as the proposal was passed on to the federal government, that right was given for them to be exposed to the contents of the proposal. With one condition, that decide that oath of secrecy, and that is astonishing to me. That's like really high level stuff. It looks like that's almost like deceit. That's almost like a slap in the face of transparency.
One of the things that through the years is that people will present information all the time that other people say.
Mm-hmm.
I've done this show a number of years, and people will call sometimes and say, you just said so and so. When you challenge them to replay the tape, they say, don't bother. So you always got to be wary of people giving accounts.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we normally here try to deal with the stuff that's on the record.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right, Roger?
Yes, Mr. Herbert.
Thank you for those doctrines.
Well, WEBBO, if we can probably just, maybe move a little regionally, so to speak.
Trump changed his mind again? Is that too regional? That's international.
It's international.
Trump have changed his mind just before we come on here. About an hour before we come.
Really?
Yeah, because, they are supposed to destroy Iran at 8 o'clock.
The whole of civilization.
The whole of civilization, and bring them back to the Stone Age and all that stuff.
Well, maybe he gets civilized.
He have changed his mind again.
That is good.
I'll find reasons to change his mind.
That is
because Pakistan government asked him to give them a 2 weeks breathing period. Yeah, and also they asked the Iran Revolutionary Army government to also open the straits for a period of 2 weeks. So I'm glad to hear that now. So he give them a break, really. But the Iran people now make joke because they form human train around those places that he said he had a bomb. So you see, when people are ready to stand up,
yes,
you know, people will stand up.
People power.
People power is what run the whole thing. I wonder if news people know that.
Of course,
you know.
Of course, we know that.
And I'm wondering those who vehemently opposed to the southern development thing.
Is they right?
You think they should go on camp in tents with helmets?
No, it's their right. It's their right. We have a free choice to choose, and if they choose whatever they choose, that's their right, and we must respect that. There are others. People see things differently, you know. I had a conversation with one of my campers on the weekend, and I was trying to bring a point to him, and I said, where you stand and where I stand, if somebody draw a figure there, you may see it as a 6, I may see it as a 9. It is angles, it is, you know, perception. Well, you know, it is just basically where you stand, how you see it from that angle at that particular point in time. And that is why persons, you know, would want to convince others one way or the other.
Yeah.
If we all were to see things the very same way, then there wouldn't have been any reason for anyone to try to convince anyone. You would have probably had from thy kingdom to present, you know, one party in government, for example, because everybody sees it this particular way. You know, whoever that government would have been. You know, but people see things differently. And it doesn't mean because you see things different than the way I see it, mean that you are silly or I am silly.
Yeah, but you know, the new world order is for all of us to see the things the same way, run by America.
But it can't happen. It ain't gonna happen. How is it gonna happen? We are individuals, you know. We are humans, you know.
Well, that lesson has been taught, I suppose, quite recently by Iran, you know, to the rest of the world, because just the closing of that little waterway, everybody can find it to breathe. You know what I mean? And that shows you how interdependent we are, as Martin Luther King said. I eat my breakfast with a fork made in Iran. What I'm eating come from India. The plates are from China. And the table was made in America. And the dinner is black people.
And that is going to continue to happen for a while. You know, in terms of we will not be able to get all our wants from one particular country or one particular place. Because again, people have choice. And people see things differently. The quality, what I buy from a particular, let's say online, I may look at it at quality. You may look at it and frown on it. If I buy from Timo, I get a nice suit from Timo, I feel as if that I'm on top of the world. You may frown on it and say Timo is no good. You know, you want to buy from Amazon or wherever else sell. You know? So it's just what it is. It's just life. Beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. If everyone were to see things the same way, everyone seeing that particular person would want that particular person. And then what would happen?
Let us just say we are the world.
Yes, we are.
We are the children, we are the ones to make a better day. So let's start giving.
Of course, and we definitely would have to be the ones to make a better day. Where at least we have to pave that path for the youngsters to come. So as I was saying, Naya, in terms of regionally, I think by now there's an announcement in Antigua in terms of an election date. I did say that elections would be maybe mid to late, very early But I want to believe that the election is going to be this very month, April, in Antigua. I haven't heard anything yet, but the Prime Minister is supposed to make an announcement tonight.
That's the last word. This program repeats tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock following the VON News Minute. Join the Honorable Mark Brantley tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock for On the Mark. Join Keith Scarborough on Thursday evening at 8 o'clock for Government at Work. A place where you can spend all of your evenings right here in the Eastern Caribbean's powerhouse. Thank you all again for joining us. This is your voice in the community talks. Get results. You all have a wonderful evening.
The views and opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Nevis Broadcasting Company Limited or its advertising.
With all the power from the tower, this is the powerhouse of the Eastern Caribbean, VON Radio, from the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis.